Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about another event that has unfolded in the Eastern Europe, where the gas supply from Russia to Europe via Ukraine has been stopped or halted. So let us try to understand why this situation has occurred and which are the countries in Europe which will be affected due to the halt of gas supply. So first of all, to give you a brief context in the background of this particular issue, Russia in the first time in the last 40 years has stopped the gas supply that it used to send to the Europe via the Ukrainian territory. This has happened after the Kyiv, which is the capital city of Ukraine. It has refused to renegotiate a 5-year-old transit deal amidst the, as you know, the war is ongoing in Ukraine and Ukrainian territories with Russia since last 2 years. So why the supply has stopped now? Because as you know, the war has been going on almost for 2 years. European countries, which are the European countries that will be affected mostly, and what is the overall extent of dependency of these countries on the Russian gas? Let us try to understand this in more detail. Now, before going into this particular topic, let us first of all try to understand the major gas pipeline that is coming from Russia toward the Europe. Now, as we can see from this particular map, the main pipeline which passes through Ukraine, the green pipelines that you are seeing on the map here, these are called as Brotherhood pipeline. Then you have the Soyuz pipeline. These are the two major pipelines. One other pipeline, as you can see, the orange one, it passes through the Belarusian territory. This is called as Yamal pipeline. And third was the Nord Stream that used to pass through the North Sea region. And this pipeline has been basically stopped after the war. The gas supply has been stopped. So, 3 pipelines in this area, and then you have the Blue Stream and Turk Stream that largely supplies gas to the Turkey and through the Black Sea region to the other part of the Eastern Europe. So, total overall we can understand we have 5 major pipelines through which Russia used to send gas to Europe. Now, why has Russian gas via Ukraine to Europe stopped, and why it has stopped now? Why did it not stop when the war began? Now, in this context, we have to understand that by sending the gas, it was not only the Russia which used to generate the revenue, also Ukraine was paid a transit fee as it let the gas to supplied via its territory. So that is why Ukraine also, and also we know that the European countries are largely dependent on the gas. So they also have put pressure on the Ukraine not to let the gas flow stop even after the war. So that is why after the war, for 2 years continuously, we have seen the gas outflow. So the question is that why it has stopped now? The reason is because the gas flow through the Ukrainian territory that Russia used to take was under an agreement that the both countries signed in year 2020. And this overall agreement or deal, we can say, had a total lifespan of only 5 years, and after 5 years again the deal had to be extended if Russia still had to send the gas through Ukrainian territory. However, as we know, in the context of the war, the countries were not able to agree upon it. And even if you go back few weeks back in December, Volodymyr Zelensky, who is the president of Ukraine, he has said that he might allow Russia to transport gas to the Ukrainian territory, but he has put a condition. And that condition was that Russia will not be able to get the revenue from the natural gas that it is supplying unless and until it stops the war. Now, this obviously critics argue did not make any sense for Russia, because if it is sending gas, if it is not getting the payment immediately, obviously that is why there was not so much interest. And also the last nail in the coffin was put by the Russian President Vladimir Putin, who said that it is too late anyway to renew the deal. And it is due to this reason the deal has come to a lapse and has ended. In this context, the Ukrainian energy minister, he has said that we have for the first time in the history stopped the transit of the Russian gas, and he has claimed that it is a historic event. The reason why it is a historic event, because he says that Russia will lose its market as it is not able to supply natural gas to the European Union. It will suffer financial losses, and Europe has already made the decision to abandon Russian gas. And why this is something that Ukraine wants? Because obviously it is the crude oil, it is a natural gas which is generating revenue for Russia, through which it is fueling its war machinery and continuously striking the Ukrainian territories. So obviously it will have a hidden advantage for Ukraine. Obviously other, what you can say, loss to Ukraine obviously will be in terms of revenue, because it will lose the transit fee that it used to receive. So which European countries will be affected due to the stoppage of this gas pipeline? So as we can look from this particular map, the gas that is being supplied to Russia via Ukraine passes through many countries, but the immediate country where the pipeline is largely extended, we can see from here, is Slovakia. Then we have Hungary, then we have Romania, then we have Moldova, and further it extends to the countries such as Austria and other European countries as well. In this context, the biggest loser are three countries here. First is the Austria, because if you talk about the Austria, it is a very small country, and to a large extent, we can say more than 90% of the natural gas it used to receive, it received from the Russia, and that also the gas pipeline that is coming from the Ukraine territory. The other biggest loser will be the Slovakia, where 2/3 of its annual demand was met by the Russian gas supply coming again from the Ukraine territory via the Brotherhood pipeline, as we have discussed. In this context, the Robert Fico, who is the president of the Slovakia, he has said that due to the halt of the supply of natural gas, it would cost hundreds of millions of dollars in transit revenue. Also, as the supply of gas has reduced, demand will remain same and even will increase because of the winter. It will cause a much more higher cost for the country as well as for the consumer for the import of other gases, and it would result in the rise of gas prices not in any one specific or two specific countries, but in the entire European market. So this is going to not only be the effect that is not going to be limited to few countries, rather effect we can see across the entire Europe and even to some other part of the world as well. The third biggest loser will be the Moldova. Moldova is a very small country. If you look at the map here, we can see that Moldova is a small country that is having a border with Ukraine from almost 3 sides, and then the western border is toward Romania. So most of the gas supply it used to receive was from the Ukrainian territory itself. So already because of the lack of gas supply, the cutoff of gas supply, it has declared a state of emergency. And one of the breakaway region of Moldova, that is Transnistria, which is largely controlled by Russian puppet regime, it has already declared that it does not have enough gas to supply for heating of the buildings, heating of the apartments and all that. So the people here are also suffering a lot. Now, if you look about and talk about the Russian gas supply to the Europe, the gas supply and the pipeline through which the supply has been halted and cut off is what we refer as the Brotherhood pipeline. The other name of the Brotherhood pipeline is also Urengoy, Pomari and Uzhgorod pipeline. Why? Because it starts from Urengoy, that is from where largely the gas is supplied, and it terminates at Uzhgorod in the Ukraine. So that is why Brotherhood, or based on the name of places this pipeline has been named. The gas is carried from the Siberia, because you know that the Siberian region of the Russia is very rich in the what you can call as the natural resources, whether it is coal, whether it is natural gas, whether it is crude oil, and via the town of Sudzha, that is from where the pipeline used to enter in the Ukrainian territory. And to give you an interesting account, we know that few months back, Ukrainian forces have launched a counter offensive, and they were able to take some area of the border city that is called as Kursk under its control. So the Sudzha town, through which the gas pipeline and the gas was supplied, is currently under the control of Ukrainian military forces. And also the pipeline flows through the Ukraine to Slovakia. If you try to understand over this here we have a small region, that is the Slovakia, and where the pipeline splits into 2 branches. From Slovakia, one branch go to the Czech Republic and other branch goes to the Austria. If you know the history, you might remember that Czechoslovakia earlier was a single country. From Czechoslovakia, you have a splitting of 2 countries, Slovak Republic as it is called now, and the Czech Republic. It has changed its name also, and now it prefers to be called as Czechia. So these are the countries in Austria that are going to be mostly affected. Now, because the Ukraine has halted the supply of gas through its territory, it does not mean that no gas will flow from Russia to Ukraine, or Russia to Europe basically. Because apart from the pipeline that passes through Ukraine, there is one major pipeline that passes through the Black Sea region. If you look at the map here, this is the Black Sea. This here we have is Turkey. So from the Russia, undersea pipeline passes through the Black Seabed more specifically, that is called as Turk Stream. And Turk Stream then supplies gas to the Turkey region, and one part of Turk Stream that is called as South Stream Light. It is this stream that supplies gas to countries such as Bulgaria, then you have Serbia, and then you have Hungary, and further to Austria. So that is why, if you remember, we have discussed that the countries which are going to be affected most is Moldova, because Moldova will not receive any gas from this particular pipeline. Or if we talk about the Slovakia, also is going to be affected. But Austria, impact will be relatively less, because it can then increase the amount of gas that it is taking from this South Stream pipeline. So that is how we can understand the overall pipeline or pipeline network. Now, obviously, we know that after the war, there was a pressure on the European countries to cut off its dependency on the Russian oil and gas. And the extent or the impact of this we can understand from this particular graph, which shows the share of European Union natural gas imports from Russia. Now, you know that by the year 2020-2021, almost 40% of European Union natural gas was imported from Russia. So, you can understand the amount of money Russia was making and the extent of dependency Europe has on the country. And suddenly, after Russia waged a war in Ukraine, we can see most of countries began to cut off its dependency. The Nord Stream pipeline that we have discussed, that was basically stopped. The Yamal pipeline passing through Bulgaria, that also the gas flow has been stopped from there. So due to these decisions, the gas flow from Russia to Europe has been continuously declining, and by the year end of year 2024, it has reduced to almost 8%. So from 40% to 8%, that is a massive drop in the amount of gas coming from Russia to Europe. Now, to understand this more detail, as I told you that we have two pipelines. One pipeline was supplying gas to Russia via the Belarusian territory called as the Yamal gas pipeline. So just after the war, the gas flow has been stopped here. And second was Nord Stream passing through the North Sea. That also has been stopped. And now in the third in the line is the Brotherhood pipeline in the Ukraine. So that also has been stopped now. So the only pipeline through which Russia now supplies gas to Europe is the Turkish pipeline or Black Sea pipeline that we have discussed about. So if we try to understand the extent of dependency of the countries on the Russian gas, so we can see the smaller countries such as North Macedonia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Moldova, Finland, Latvia. These have a much more greater dependency, where almost 90 to 100% of natural gas was imported only from Russia. Then we have some countries which are having a medium level of dependency. These are countries such as France, Poland, Italy, Germany and Bulgaria. Their dependency range somewhere between 30% to 70%. And least dependent countries were Netherlands, Romania, Georgia, Ireland and Ukraine. So the effect on the bottom countries are relatively less, and effect on the upper countries were significantly higher after the beginning of Russia-Ukrainian war. So as we have discussed that if you look at the three major pipelines, Nord Stream pipeline, Yamal pipeline and the Ukraine pipeline, that is Brotherhood pipeline, we can see this is the distribution of the natural gas that used to flow from Russia to Europe. So we can see that in all these cases, we have seen a massive decline, massive drop in the overall gas supply. To have a proper understanding that how war has changed the entire picture here, we have the four figures that we have taken from the year 21, 22, 23 and 24. Now in year 2021, before the beginning of war, we can see that almost 152.4 billion cubic meter of natural gas was supplied from Russia to Europe, out of which 28% almost was supplied by Ukraine, and the remaining 73% was supplied via the alternative routes that we have discussed. Now just after the war, there is a massive drop that we see here from 152.4 BCM, then the next year it dropped to 68 BCM, then to 28 BCM, and currently in this particular year, that means 2024, which I just recently passed, there it has dropped to only 23.2%. And now you can understand that what is the significance of Ukrainian pipeline or pipeline passing through Ukraine, because 50% of the Russian gas was passing through Ukraine. So now this gas pipeline has been stopped. That means we can see a 50% drop in the natural gas supply to Europe via Russia. So the alternative routes that we have will be the only applicable route, the Turkish route basically, that we can understand. So this is overall a gist of what has happened recently in the context of Russia-Ukraine war in the Eastern Europe, and what are the countries, or which are the countries that are going to be impacted. Now, before going, I want to ask you a question, and you can put your answer in the comment. I want to ask, which country is the largest producer of natural gas in the world? So that's all for this particular video. Thank you very much.